Let's talk 1031s. Hey guys, I'm Zach Sykes at Homestead & Co. And today I want to chat with you a little bit about 1031 exchanges. Now, everybody's heard this buzzword and keyword and term, right? Any that has anything to do with real estate investing or being in real estate, you hear this 1031, but what is it? How does it work? Now, 1031 is simply a part of the tax code that allows you to defer your taxes, defer your gain on property in a like-kind exchange. So what does that mean? Now, let's say you bought a property several years ago for maybe $100,000 and you've rented it out for a while and now the property is worth $200,000 and you sell the property. Now that you sold the property for $200,000 and you bought it for $100,000, that means you're left over with a gain of $100,000. And that is taxable gain on a passive investment. So you'd pay capital gains tax at the federal and the state level on your gain. Now, a 1031 is a vehicle you can use to defer those taxes and not have to pay them at the time of the sale. So how do we do it? How do we use it? First thing you should do is always consult with your accountant and a 1031 intermediary before you list and sell a property. Always your first step. We're not accountants. Everybody's different when you should use 1031, when you shouldn't. So always consult with your accountant and a 1031 intermediary before you list your property active on the market, and especially before you go under contract to sell it. Because once you're under contract to sell it, you're bound to it. So let's say I do want to sell my property. I'm going to make 100 grand on it, and maybe I only owe 50 grand on it. So now I'm going to walk away from this sale with roughly $150,000. What do I do to minimize my tax liability on that money? We can use the 1031 exchange to roll all of that money over into a new property. If we buy a new property with some caveats, we would be able to defer all those capital gains taxes we would have had to pay on the gain and also the recapture of the depreciation on the property. So here are some things to remember when you're doing a 1031. All of the equity out of the old property needs to be rolled over into the new property in order to qualify for a 1031 exchange. Also, title has to be held the same. Has to be held either if the property you sold is in your name, has to go back into your name. If it was in an LLC before, has to go back into the LLC. The next piece on this, and this is one that catches a lot of people off guard, is you have to take on more debt than the one you are purchasing. So let's say I only owed $50,000 on the one we sold. I need to borrow at least $50,001 on the one we're buying. Otherwise, I'm going to be liable for a portion, if not all, of my capital gains on the property we sold. Now, a lot of people think, hey, I'm going to make a bunch of money on this one. I'm going to sell this one and buy one with all cash and then I don't have a loan anymore. Guys, that doesn't work with a 1031 exchange. You absolutely have to go take on more debt in order to qualify for the 1031 exchange. The next thing to be aware of with a 1031 are some timelines. There are some very specific timelines involved in the 1031 process. So from the day you close on the property you're selling, you have 45 days to identify one of the next properties you're going to purchase. Now you can identify up to 3 properties or 200% of the value of the property you're selling. And once you've identified, then you have 180 days to close on the new property you've identified. If you fail to meet either one of those timelines, you're disqualified from the 1031 and you have to pay those capital gains taxes and your recapture of the depreciation on that property. The next thing to know about 1031s is make sure you have your 1031 intermediary set up before you close on the property. That is a drop dead date to have your 1031 intermediary set up. Why is that important? If you go to the closing table and you close on the property and you don't have a 1031 intermediary set up and the title hands you a check for your proceeds and you hold that check, even if you don't cash it, that is still you in possession of the money and that disqualifies you from doing a 1031. So we have to have a 1031 intermediary set up to hold the money. So when you close on the property you're selling, they get all your proceeds. When you buy the next one, they will forward all those proceeds right to the next closing. Guys, if you don't know who to use a 1031 intermediary, don't stress out about it. Your agents have got you. Title companies got great recommendations that work really closely with these 1031 intermediaries to help that process go. So guys, as you can see, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of stipulations we have to hit to make sure a 1031 makes sense for us. So definitely make sure you speak with your accountant and get your 1031 intermediary set up before you list and go active. I know you're gonna ask me and challenge us on this. Hey, in our hot market today, I can't identify a property within 45 days and buy it. Either I'm gonna overpay for it, or I'm gonna have to make a lot of offers and there's not a good property to show up. Guys, this is where I think in our market right now, a lot of our investors are having some great success at a very rarely used reverse 1031. Now, what is that? A reverse 1031 is when we go ahead and contract a new property we want to buy before we sell the old one. So we've already identified and contracted the one we're going to buy, because we know in our market right now, it's much, much easier to sell a property than to buy one. So let's just go ahead and contract a new one first, and then we can go sell the old one and roll it right back in and even do a back-to-back close. Hey guys, I'm Zach Sykes at Homestead & Co. Thanks for watching.